Welcome to the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, the show that puts the spotlight on the incredible women who fuel the world of motorsports. From drivers to crew members, engineers to fans, and everyone in between, we're here to celebrate the trailblazers, dreamers, and doers shaping the sport we love. Each episode, we share inspiring stories of females of all ages from every corner of the motorsports universe, past, present, and future. It's a journey through the seasons of life filled with heartfelt moments, laughter, and a whole lot of horsepower. So whether you're a lifelong fan, a racer yourself, or simply curious about the extraordinary women behind the wheel, settle in, relax, and enjoy a fun and uplifting ride with us. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, connecting and celebrating women in motorsports, one story at a time. Let's hit the track. Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. And Elisa, is that right? Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Elisa is my guest today, and we're going to have a different kind of conversation today. She was a driver, but that's not what we're really going to talk about today. She has a lot of experience in some things that I think you're really going to want to know about. And so, Elisa, welcome to the show. And would you start by telling us just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So thanks for having me. I was really excited to get your invitation. I just wanted to say thank you. So a little bit about me. I am a Southern girl from Florida. I've been in the industry, I would say, for 20 years. I don't want to give away my age, but really since I was very young, I knew from a very young age, not because I come from a motorsports background family, because I absolutely don't, but I just knew that I loved cars. Like I was just really, I always noticed cars. I always was, into cars. And I remember the moment that really changed my perspective as a child was it was like the cover car for Ford, the Fox body Mustang. I want to say, don't remember the year, but probably somewhere around 88, 89. I was pretty small, but still, big enough to realize that is a really cool car. It was yellow, which I'm not a yellow car person. I don't know, but it was yellow with a black top, and it was like their cover car for all their ads, for the 5-liter Mustang. And that was really the time that I was like, wow, that is the coolest car I've ever seen. And I need to have a poster or something of that car. And asked my dad for car magazines, which kind of my story evolves to where the same magazines I would ask my dad to buy for me as a child, I would go on later to write for those magazines. So, it just kind of came full circle. But I knew from a young age that I just loved cars. And I really loved, the muscle car was my thing, and I was a Mustang girl, but I've kind of evolved into just loving all things motorsports over the years. So that's kind of how I got my start. And then it was really truly I used to go out and street race. I'm from Tampa. So the street racing scene was big there when I was a teenager. Got in plenty of trouble doing things like that. Don't ask my dad. And, just had little hot rods here and there, and did some small mods, what I could afford on a, teenager's poor salary working for my dad at his sign shop. So, that's kind of how I got my start. And he put me in front of the computer when I was a kid, when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. So I had a very good, I'm very knowledgeable when it comes to technology and computers. And he taught me how to start doing graphic design. Like I said, he had a sign company. So from there, all of the things that I was interested in as a child motivated me to where I am in motorsports today. And I've harnessed all those interests, I would say passions, because it's not really a job for me. It truly is a passion, what I've been involved in over the years. So it's a little bit about me and kind of how I got my start.
That's interesting, because I too was a graphic designer for a long time. Worked for a sign, and I worked for a sign and printing company. So they did signs, but they also did invoices and brochures and everything under the sun. So that's interesting that we both kind of have that background.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me then, you always loved cars. Did you go to college to further your education about marketing and that? Or tell me kind of your path, because I have a lot of young girls that listen, and they want to know, well, how do I do this? How would I get into the marketing, the graphic design, and I know you do race events. How do you get into that? So can you tell us kind of how you did that?
Sure. So I'm a rebellious kind of person, and I did not go to college for any of this. I feel that you can get pretty far with a lot of passion, and obviously networking is huge. Um, Back in I would say I would say 2003, 2004, I got involved with a car forum. And I don't know if you remember back when the forums were really big. This is far before Facebook groups ever were a thing, right? I was always a Mustang person, like I said. So I was really interested in the late model Mustangs, which they would call the modular engine. That was kind of my focus. And so I became ownership in this car forum, and it became really popular. There was only one competitor. We had hundreds of thousands of registered users at a point. So I started selling advertising. And that became my job because the website was so popular and in such demand, and just so much activity, all related to the late model Ford platform, that it was manufacturers far and wide were wanting to advertise. They wanted to be where their customers were. So that is really where I started building the relationships that have grown into still relationships that I have today. And we're talking about 20 years ago. That website went on to sell, and things moved along with Facebook groups and all of that kind of thing. That the website still exists today, but those relationships are what have created my footing in this industry for sure. And that is really truly, like, yes, you can go to college, you can get a master's degree in whatever you want to get. If that is what your goal is and your drive is. But I feel like passion wins over that any day, if that makes sense. And that's not that is 100%. I mean, if you're a lawyer, a doctor, something like that, I feel like that's different. But when it is a passion driven industry that you want to be in, it's either you've got it or you don't. That's pretty much it. How hard are you willing to fight to climb the ladder, to make the connections, to be seen? I was at PRI, the Performance Racing Industry Show, every year from 2004 until, I've been there every year for the most part. The only thing that kept me from it was that I was very close to having a baby at one point, so I didn't go. So, it's boots on the ground. Yes, social media is great, but before social media was really that popular back in the, early to mid 2000s, you had to be in front of people. You had to be shaking hands. I did so much free work, Melinda, over my years just to be able to say that I would, that I had my name on a project, whether it was a graphic design thing. Basically I'm self-taught. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. I promise you that.
So, Alyssa, we have so many things in common. I did not go to college. I graduated in 1974. You weren't even born yet, I'm sure. And so it wasn't, you could get a decent job without going to college at that time.
Right.
And so I, loved graphic design. I'm a crafter, all those things that kind of fit together. And it's interesting. I owned a weekly newspaper.
Very cool.
And in high school, I actually did a work study at a newspaper. And then, 15 years later, I ended up owning a weekly newspaper, which who would have ever thought, right? So a lot of the things you just said, I'm self-taught. I'm pretty techie for a 69-year-old mama, but I've always had my hand in computers and technology since, probably the time they came out. I had a computer that was brown with the orange letters that first came out.
Yeah.
And it was a huge thing, and you couldn't hardly pick it up. And I prepared income tax. I had an income tax business. So a lot of the things that you're saying, I did myself. And college is not for everybody.
Right. I think that it's okay to get, for some people to get the degree. If that is important to them, that is should be something that they want to do.
I
But to
agree.
me, especially if you think about how things have changed so dramatically.
Yes.
So, the value of college is not near what it used to be.
Right.
You spend all this money, because I have girls, I have children. So I've got one that's about to be 10, who's such a baby. I can't believe she's about to be 10. And then I've got one who's 12. And, we're going to start thinking about college and things like that soon. But it's, kind of figure out what they want to do with their lives or what they're interested in. Because I knew when I was a kid, kind of going back to me, that I had a passion for motorsports. And I would visualize myself, I would think about commercials that I would see on TV, and I would visualize myself like sitting at the table with these executives coming up with great ideas for what they should say. I didn't know what the heck I was, but it was my little dreams, right? And, like that would be really cool. I should do that one day. And now I do write the ads. Now I do create the content that is for the ads, that is going to sell products and make people happy. Because let's face it, motorsports pretty much makes people happy. So that's the whole purpose. I mean, if we're just being honest, we're not out here changing the world, right? But we are making people happy. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely think that passion wins every time. Passion and talent wins every time. And I'm definitely a testament to that. If you want to get a some sort of a small degree, I definitely think you should do that. Yeah. But just for me, I've never been met with anyone that ever cared that I didn't have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree to do what I do.
Picture this. You're at the track looking at all the merch trailers. What do you see? Shirts and hats everywhere. And you think, I want more. That's how 4 Left Turns was born. At 4 Left Turns, we create unique products for race fans. Our retail website is 4leftturns.net. And if you're looking to stock your gift shop or merch trailer, we also sell wholesale. 4 Left Turns is a one-stop shop for everything racing. Well, except shirts and hats. We don't do those. Made for race fans, by race fans, 4leftturns.net.
And I've worked for top companies. I've worked for manufacturers that are top tier, global manufacturers that have trusted me with their brands. So, but I'm passionate, I'm professional. I maintain those relationships. And I will say too, if I was going to talk to someone that's a lot younger than me, I have to be honest and give the credit where the credit is due. There were a few people that were just absolutely pivotal in my success. They believed in me and gave me a shot at different things when I would have never dreamed of being able to, Muscle Mustangs and Fast Fords magazine, sending me out for a press launch with Ford, trusting me to represent the magazine and go drive the cars and write the article. And it was a dream come true. I'll never forget when I landed at LAX, was picked up by the Ford people. They brought me to my fancy hotel in Hollywood, and I was driving a brand new car that wasn't even out for the public yet to write about it in that magazine. You know what I mean? So like that was because someone believed in me. And that is a relationship that I created, and they gave me a shot. This isn't so you can't do it on your own. You can't, you're not a magician, right? It is about who you know. Yeah. And that is really the key. So professionalism, being, keeping yourself classy. And I'm a very outspoken person. I have no problem telling you like it is. Sometimes I say some things on social media that could be taken as a little bit of controversial, right? I am heavy in politics, which I have to separate myself from, my job, right? But I've never had to not be who I am in this industry. And I think that when you're in other industries, any other industry really, you have to watch what you say. You really, it's stuffy. You have to be in a mold, if that makes sense. But motorsports is not that. So you can really shine and let people see your real true self and your real personality. But the biggest thing is you've got to get out there. You got to talk to people. And, and like I said, I have no roots in motorsports other than the want, the passion. Like my dad wasn't a racer. And if somebody has racing parents, you're already ahead of the game.
Right. And because you've probably been around it since you were little. Yeah.
Your parents,
You know,
your parents are buying products. They're already buying products. They
right.
already know the sales team at Summit Racing or whatever. Like that's how you get those things moving in the right direction. And then closed mouths don't get fed. So if you're not asking, hey, my daughter is racing junior dragsters or whatever the case might be, would you guys be willing to supply us a case of oil or something, and we'll put the sticker on that car? And that's how those kinds of things evolve if you're in the driver's seat and you're young. So,
well, motorsports, I think, is a very interactive business. You could work in a lot of other industries where you sit behind a desk and you Zoom or you call, and you're not out there meeting the owner of those companies or whatever it might be. Where with motorsports, I feel like you can't really do that, because meeting the people at the track, seeing them in their environment, really shows your passion and your interest for them, more so than somebody who's just talking to them on the phone. And so, there's no better place to be than a racetrack, at least in my opinion.
Sure.
So, yeah. So I love that part. If you took a handful of drivers from all the different, racing series and put them in a room, you'd have every kind of, you talk about diversity. They're rich, they're not rich, they grew up on a farm, they grew up in the city. Everything is going to be different. And so
for sure,
we have such a wide variety of wonderful people that we can get connected to and network with.
I don't even think I have friends outside of motorsports. It is. I would know what to talk about. Not that I only talk about motorsports, but like if you think about how many people you've met and created amazing friendships with, and what other industry can you say that's what happens? I don't know. Maybe there are. I just narrow-minded, tunnel vision for what I love so much, but in some way, every single person that I know today in my life has been the connection was created somewhere. The spark of motorsports did that, So
yeah, I have a couple. I have a couple high school friends, but I live 6 hours from where I went to high school. I have one very, very close friend that I met through another company that she and I both were distributors with, send out cards. And so I met her through that. She's my very best friend ever in the world. And other than that, it's motorsports people.
But I only know her because of who I met her through, related to motorsports. So, I love that. It's just a great place to be. It's a great place to be. And I've been so blessed and so fortunate to do the things that I've done. I mean, to be able to say that I was going to, put on a live event for a TV show is like crazy. You know what I mean? Like what, but it's because someone believed in me and gave me a shot.
Yeah.
And
so tell me some of the things that you've done. What are some of the things that you're really proud of, or that you were able to produce or be a part of?
Like I said, I don't want to put a lot of company names out there, but I've handled, marketing and branding and building brands for the last 10 or 15 years with some top tier. I'm heavily into the, I guess you could say, the power adder side of things. Fueling and power adders is where I'm at. So I really enjoy that, because that's the heart and soul. But other than an engine, right, is the heart and soul of going fast. Is those ingredients are what are so important to be successful on the racetrack. Drag racing is my passion. So for some other people, that may not be the case. I like all types of motorsports, but drag racing is where my interest is. So my focus has always been on drag racing, and I used to drag race, but I was given an opportunity, I would say maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah, probably 8 years ago, to be involved with the Street Outlaws group. And what it was before Street Outlaws started their own live events where actual fans would attend, it was the same group of people. They put on their own, what they would call a no prep event. So are you familiar with prep?
Oh, yeah. Very familiar.
So particularly Mike Murillo, who's a very well-known name in Mustang racing from decades back. I think he's a 16-time world champion drag racer. He was the one that gave me the shot and said, you're going to help us put on an event. And we put together a no prep event series that was massively successful. And that is how, and I'm certainly not giving myself the credit. It's the Outlaws that have the social media followings that, poured their heart and souls and hundreds of thousands of dollars into these race cars that created, the interest to start this kind of new trend in motorsports. So from there, I would always be doing my marketing stuff for my companies that I worked for as what I would call a contractor. And I would also be able to there was a lot of freedom in that. I've always worked from home. I've been very thankful, very, very fortunate to do that. I've never had to sit in an office somewhere. That's a lot of trust, that goes back to kind of the trust that you get when you have good relationships and you treat people right. But during that time when I would do the marketing, I would also be running these events, and I would do the marketing for the events. I would do the marketing leading up to the events, all the promotion, handle the budgeting and advertising and things like that. And then just the logistics of it, as minor as the ingress and egress of how you're going to pull into the event and how you're going to leave, to make sure everything runs smoothly. And, it was how can I promote this event to make it reach a lot of racers? Because obviously you want as many racers as you can get. And with the no prep stuff, that's really where the big payouts started to really kind of like be more enticing to these big and small tire racers. Back in the day, you would never hear of like a $40,000 payout for a single class, No. So it kind of created a firestorm, I would say, within me, because I loved it. I loved to be out there, long days. I mean, I'm talking about we'd be reconciling till 4 a.m. Sometimes the sun would come up and we were still racing because we had, we don't have a curfew and we had an oil down, and it was, but it was a lot of exhaustion, but just so much fun. So from that no prep series, the No Prep Kings was born, which was part of the Street Outlaws. That was their new show back in 2018, I would say, is when they launched that. So I became the event coordinator for that on the live event side. So I wasn't in charge of the classes and the racers like I would have been involved in, which was fine because this thing is a beast. It's an absolute beast. My job was to make sure the fans were happy, that we drummed up enough interest to pre-sell as many tickets as we could so that we would have an idea of what we were capable of putting in the stands at that time. And then handling, I just had a checklist of everything that I had to do, whether it was local advertising, dealing with what we call our influencer racers to make sure they have the right tools to market the events and things like that. Dealing with the track staff, which was always interesting. We would have 50 production people that we would bring in, which wasn't really on my side. Like I said, I was on the live event side. So they were on the TV side of things to make the movie magic kind of happen. And I will say it's real racing. There's no nonsense. Like it's not, there's no BS. It's, there could be some questionable things about, somebody, the light didn't turn green or they went on red, but it was green, things like that. But as far as it being real racing, people like to say that on the internet that it's not, but it absolutely is. Yeah. But what I loved was just the grungy, like hardcore grudge racing kind of thing. And that comes from that no prep scene. So that I was like, I fit right into that thing. And it was great. I mean, we did meet and greets with the drivers. And one thing that was amazing to me, which was the fans, just the sheer volume of fans. On an average weekend, we'd have 25,000 maybe spectators. All days combined, which, that's a lot of people that you got to.
It is.
So
it is.
It's a lot of moving parts, but that it was the connection with the Murillo family that got me that deal with the production company, which is called Pilgrim. But since really, so that series went on for years, and it's still hanging on by a thread. But I stepped away. 3 years ago because I'm a mom, and I was gone for 16 events a year was just too much for me. I'd have to be the first one in and the last one out, and it was just too much. So I had to, shift my priorities a little bit. So I started focusing more heavily on my marketing and less on the event side of things. So
Yeah. Do you miss that though? Some miss the live events?
oh, yes. And I remember the last event that I knew it was the final event for the season. And I knew in my heart I wasn't coming back for the following season. And it was actually in Texas. I live in Louisiana, so I'm about 2.5 hours from Dallas. I'm in like the northwestern part of the state. And I remember driving. This was not an event that I flew to. I was able to drive home and I cried the entire way home. And part of it was exhaustion. And the other part was like, I really have to do this for my family. You know, I've got to step away from my family. And I loved it so much. Like
Yeah.
I loved it. I would find a family that, you know, with the Street Outlaws stuff kind of came the high ticket prices and that kind of almost a Disneyland experience, sort of, you know, where everything is very expensive. But I would find a family at every event and I would upgrade their tickets and I would make sure that they had the best time. I'd find one that had kids, you know, those are the types of things that brought me so much joy.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it. I was in my element. I was definitely in my element. Yeah.
I would love that type of experience as well. Now, at my age, I probably couldn't do the till 4 a.m. thing because as you get older, you just don't have the energy. But the experience and the finding the family and the giving stuff away, and that'd be right up my alley too.
Just seeing how many people, just the sheer volume. And, you know, really it was a different kind of experience than what I was used to with doing the Murillo stuff, because that was a much smaller scale of an event. So it was really people that were heavily into motorsports that, you know, could turn a wrench or whatever that would come and watch those events. It was a totally different clientele. You're dealing with people who are TV fans. So you really have to make them happy because they don't understand downtime. They don't understand, you know, when they're filming between rounds and then someone has an oil down and it's one of those that takes an hour and a half to get cleaned up. Man, so those are major challenges for me to try to figure out how we're going to fill that space.
I do think it makes you appreciate the TV show more though, because I've been to events where, you know, similar to what you're talking about. And when you're watching the TV show, it might be 30 minutes or an hour and, you know, other than the commercials in between. But when you're at an event and you have to sit there, get a drink, do whatever for an hour and a half. And it happens more than once, maybe. And you're like, wow, I'm glad I can sit. Oh my gosh, kids don't want to sit for that long.
No.
Yeah. So I do think it makes people appreciate the TV side of it more after they experience that.
I was really excited though, because I recently got an opportunity to get back into the live event side of things. So that is something that's going on in the background. And I'll just tell you, because it's starting to come out, that the Pinks show, the old Pink show, it's coming back.
I saw that.
Yep. So I've been working with the producer of that show for many years, doing smaller projects and things like that. And, so right now I'm on the side of just trying to help him, you know, to get the event moving in the right direction as far as promotion goes. But I will be there, and it's going to be not only Pinks. He's bringing back Pastime. He's bringing back the other show, The Call Out, which I'm not too familiar with that one, but I watch Pastime and Pinks like all the time.
Oh, Pinks for sure.
Pinks was awesome. So I think that right now, with the way that things have changed with the Street Outlaws, which was so popular, it was just such a, you know, it went on for a very long time, just the Street Outlaws street show in general. But now I think the majority of that type of TV has stopped. I think that this is the perfect time for Pinks to come back and kind of reignite. But actually, he's changed the rules. So now in Pinks, if you race, say you win one car, you go on, you race the next guy, you win 2 cars. You race the next guy, you win 3 cars. He's going to have a car carrier that will be able to take all of somebody's cars back if they just say they have a clean sweep, you know. But if they even win 2 or 3 cars, he's ready to take their cars home for them on, you know, a car hauler.
How amazing is that?
It's going to be really cool. I think it's going to be great. I think people, there's some haters out there, you know. That's how that goes.
I don't care what you do, there's haters.
That's right. They would complain They would complain if you didn't bring the show back. They would complain if you brought the show back.
Right.
It's going to have a new host. So the bald guy, Rich Christensen, that was, he was really great on that show. He's not coming back. So they have someone else that's going to fill those shoes. So they're going to be complaining about that. You're going to want Rich Christensen back. And I mean, it's just the way it goes. So,
this last week, a lot of NASCAR fans were complaining about the people on Fox and different things. And last year when NBC had Lee Diffie, and there's always somebody complaining about something, but you know what? If you don't like it, turn it off. But stop running down what the rest of us are enjoying. But, I'm going to put a word in. You need to come to the Michigan, Chicago land area.
Okay.
Because I'll be there. I'll be your little assistant running around helping you.
I mean, that sounds amazing.
I would love that. That would just be
really
cool.
And
my husband would be on cloud 9.
So I'm not sure of all the locations that they're going to be filming. So some of the track negotiations are still taking place, but the first one's going to be in North Carolina. So that's still a little far for you to go.
It is, but
I think it's going to be cool. You never know. I think it's going to turn into a 6-event type series. So I know for sure it'll be in Texas, which will be nice and close for me. But I think he's sticking with IHRA tracks is how I understand it.
Okay.
So what's your closest big track over there?
Is there one in Indianapolis?
So that was Route 66, Joliet, that closed.
Oh yeah, that's only 2 hours.
That was, and that kind of leads to the next thing, these tracks closing. Can you imagine something that amazing? That place, I had the pleasure and I was fortunate enough to put on a couple of Street Outlaws events there. I raced there myself. I mean, what a great place to be. And you would just, I don't know the ins and outs of that type of situation. The mom and pop tracks are the ones that really concern me.
Me too.
Those places that they're buying up and turning into either neighborhoods or, an
shopping
Amazon
malls, storage
lot for, all of their Amazon trucks and things like that.
Yeah.
Several of the tracks that you would think, a thing like Street Outlaws would be going to these big tracks, and they're big enough that they can stand on their own 2 feet. But there's several of them that have closed that we've put on huge shows, major spectators.
Well, the Joliet, you had the NASCAR track, you had the drag strip, and I was there 2 different times. Once for a big drag race, because I've met several ladies that race motorcycles, believe it or not. My husband and I are motorcycle people. Oh. And then I was there in Chicago the weekend that it was over 100 degrees every stinking day. I was there for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was the most, and it's concrete everywhere or asphalt. It was so miserable, but I'm so glad I was there because it's not there anymore. It's gone. And you would think an area like that could support a track.
For sure. Oh yeah. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't know. We brought the spectators, so I know there's people.
Oh, there was a lot of people. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't understand that. But even like Palm Beach Raceway, you would think like that's down there in the beautiful part of Florida. That was a great place to put on a huge event, and that's closed. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's sad. And I don't know what the secret sauce is for these tracks, to be honest with you, because it's probably a lot easier said than done. Like, you got to hustle harder. You got to get more events. You've got to get more sponsors. You've got to, do the, you need to spend more time and money on marketing your properties and your events. And that's the whole key. But it's also, there's so many moving parts. I mean, it's not just the track's job to market the events. It's it's the jobs of the promoters to market the events and things like that. I mean, but it comes down to, everyone kind of moves on at a certain point. Like we know, like, inherited land and things like that. Those types of things happen when people pass away, and and it's sad. It's really sad. We're losing track all the time.
It's so sad when you go to look up a track that you've contacted people there before and it's out of business or it's closed.
For sure.
And, I have a lot of small tracks within Kalamazoo, Michigan. I'm so lucky. But the other part of that is drivers have to be their own promoters at their tracks. And you
That's
don't
true.
see drivers promoting their tracks like, oh, we have a big event coming up, or fans like me, like Kalamazoo Speedway and Galesburg are the two tracks closest to me. And I share everything that they post and do because I know how hard it is for them to get people in the stands. And like Berlin is also not that far from me, and what a great track. And Jeff Striegel, I don't know if you know Jeff, but he was with MRN and he runs the track now. He retired from MRN. And I just saw where he came out with if you're a driver, you can be an affiliate sort of thing, and promote ticket sales. And then
give them
whoever
give them
and
a
it's
little
like
piece of it.
a little piece of it, and that encourages the drivers to be more involved. So I think we need to think about those types of things that a track can do to get the fans involved, the drivers involved, whoever. I wrote a course about 3 years ago geared towards racetracks and all about what we're talking about. And
Wow.
I had a few tracks that purchased the course, and I had spent a lot of time on it because that's where it starts. And it isn't even just the racing. How good is the racing? It's how welcome do I feel when I come through the gate?
That's right.
How nice are the bathrooms? It's all of that.
Especially for women.
Yeah.
Your wife wants to use a nice bathroom.
Well, and what events do they offer that are of interest to women? Now, we know, Elisa, that women are way more interested now than they were 10 years ago. Okay. Right. We're the fastest growing demographic in motorsports.
I love that.
But we still have to come up with some ideas. Mother's Day. Oh, let's do ladies weekend, or, whatever it might be. We have to come up with those kinds of ideas. And a lot of track owners, God bless them, have been owners for so long, and they're in a rut, or they're tired, and they just can't think of anything new. They need some new blood to help them come up with new ideas.
That is so great. Yeah, that's interesting. I would love to see some of your talking points on that, just for people in general, because there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts to promoting events, but then there's also, the same thing goes with shops and, say performance shops, not really on the manufacturing side. Most manufacturers have a marketing department or a dedicated marketing person, but you can't turn the wrenches. You can't order the parts, turn the wrenches, get these cars ready, and run your social media stuff. So you've got to be willing to step out of your comfort zone a little bit, maybe spend a little bit of money. I understand, that's probably a little scary, but have someone that's trusted that you're going to be able to hand it over and let them do their thing. Figure out what you're great at, and like you said, with the events, the Mother's Day thing, it's amazing, but we also have to reach the youth.
Yeah.
And the youth is like, if we don't have stuff for kids, these kids should be growing up at racetracks, because that's going to be the foundation of their adult lives. And it's a whole lot better than the alternative in some ways, how things could turn out. Especially
I'm going to send you, I'm going to send you the list of things that I gave to a local racetrack one year when I was helping them do some social media. Boy and Girl Scout night, 4-H night. I had a list as long as your arm, and they just it was, it's a lot of work, or how I don't know how to get a hold of them, or and excuses, and then it was kind of like, okay, then don't complain if your stands are only a third full. You have to do the work to get the people there. We know that if
networking.
And we know that if we can get them to the track once, are they going to come back? You better believe it.
For sure. Yeah, they'll come back. They have a favorable experience.
Right.
And you've got to keep it clean for families. You've got to keep
Yep.
the content clean for families. I'm a big believer in that. When you're a parent, you're guarded.
Yeah.
It's a little different, once you become a parent. Because a lot of things kind of, before I would have children, I was like, whatever. Those girls over there in like a thong bikini, it's fine, whatever. But there's things that I just don't want. I want the kids to see a bunch of drunk people and acting wild and all of that.
Yeah.
So it's got to be family friendly, but you have to have the want and the desire to just think outside the box. And if you're stuck in 1997, that's just where you're going to stay. And that's just going to be the end of it. That's just going to be what it is.
The other side of that is, and you said something about the track owner can't let go, or he has to let go and let his marketing person do it. So, interesting story, has nothing to do with motorsports. I worked for a company in Florida remotely that I did their social media. They wanted to be on social media. They needed to be on social media. And I'm pretty good at it. And so I took on the job remotely. They could not let go. They were we don't want this post. We don't want that post. And finally it was just like, this isn't working. They have to let go and let the person who knows what they're doing just keep their hands out of it.
For sure. Yeah. Like it's one thing if it doesn't align with your values or something like that,
right.
But that's different. And I see it on a daily basis with what I do. The lack of letting go, trusting that, that particular caption or that particular graphic may not be the taste of someone that sits in an office all day that doesn't know. But our demographic primarily is men. Men don't care what color blue we're talking about here. Okay. They want to know the information that they're looking for. They want a little bit of entertainment in the process. And it is a matter of letting go. You do have to let go and you have to trust the process.
Yeah.
And when you're an older generation, I would say like my parents, if this was my parents talking about owning a track or a business, I could see them having a hard time letting go, so it's time for everyone to kind of shift their focus into the digital era here. This is where it's at. Like, your little meet and greet at the restaurant down the road where you're giving some $5 off coupons is great. But like, what are you doing for the web, the people that are on the web?
Yeah.
So,
for the people who never go to that restaurant,
exactly.
They say that, marketing is a pie. And you're not going for the slice you've already got coming to the track. You're going for the rest of the pie.
Exactly. It should be a whole experience, but those things cost a lot of money. It's a big investment, and it's a whole lot easier for me to sit in this chair and say what I would do than to be looking at the bottom line on everything. So I've got friends who are track owners and stuff, and it's just very expensive. I know, and everything is expensive. But if you're not, the bottom line, if you do nothing else as a track owner, if you are not catering to the young people who are racers or aspiring to be racers, as young as the junior dragsters, having little Hot Wheels car races and things like that, you are doing it wrong.
You're missing the boat.
Absolutely. 100%.
You're missing the boat. And there's so many things you can do. I'll get my list out and send it to you.
I would love to see it. We should collaborate.
We should collaborate.
We should collaborate. We could be kind of a power team, I think.
We could.
So.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that when we're not recording.
For sure.
So, Alyssa, what else, like I said to you before we started, I want young girls to be the next NASCAR driver. I would love to have a half the field be NASCAR drivers, be women. But we know how hard that is. Or to be Erica Enders. There's only one Erica Enders. Or you know what I mean. And so what can we do to show young women the possibilities that there are to be involved in motorsports without being the driver? Because they can always drive at their local track and keep their finger in that. But as far as a career, that's kind of why I wanted you on, because you have a lot of knowledge about the marketing, the branding, the events, to show women how fun and exciting it could be to do
Mhm.
something other than be the driver. Do you want to speak to that just for a minute?
Sure. Yeah. So, you have to figure out where you want to land. I think I knew early on that I wanted to have a little fun racing, but I knew way before I ever sat in any type of car, before I had a driver's license, that I wanted to be involved in the industry in different ways. So, I think that people overthink it. You just have to go out and do it and have fun with it, right? Within your means, right? You always stay within your means. You can't go build some crazy race car, and you've still got to have the skills. So you've got to get
Right.
you got to get your butt in the seat, right?
Uh-huh.
I think that if you start off, or if you have the opportunity to race, it gives you a greater vision of kind of the industry as a whole. Whenever if you can say you've sat in the driver's seat and you've raced a car, and you want to branch out to doing other things, figure out what you love. Do you love photography? Do you love, what is your vibe? Do you want to get into content writing?
If you're looking to buy, sell, or trade the stuff that strokes your engine, anything from truck parts to classic and muscle cars, RVs to hot rods, and everything in between, then check out our official classifieds at racingjunk.com. Racingjunk.com is the world's #1 online racing and performance marketplace, the ultimate one-stop shop where you'll find what you need to rock your ride. If it belongs in your garage, it's for sale on racingjunk.com. Log on to racingjunk.com to find the gear you're looking for, sell your extra stuff, keep up on racing news and tech tips, and more. Again, that's racingjunk.com.
Are you a female in motorsports? GoFastGirls.com apparel for the race enthusiast empowers women to fiercely pursue their dreams in action in motorsports, instilling them with confidence and unwavering determination. A Go Fast Girls empowers incredible speed, unwavering effort, and success. Go Fast Girls has emerged as a prominent force uniting women from all walks of life who share a passion for racing. Check us out at GoFastGirls.com today.
I will say you're not going to get rich doing it. So you have to be smart, right? Like, there's a difference between having a passion and doing what you love, and like not being able to pay your bills. So if you're going to be a content writer, maybe it is worthwhile to get some sort of degree for that type of thing. It's just kind of figuring out where you want to be, but so much is self-taught. Like, I'm 90% self-taught, that you just have to figure out what you love. And I knew that I wanted to be in marketing. So for me, it was helpful that I was able to do a lot of graphic design, because that kind of makes me a one-stop shop for a lot of companies. Mm-hmm. So, I think that it just really comes down to put yourself in the environment you want to be in. If you have a way to be in the driver's seat, I think it just helps build you to be more well-rounded. You see how, it's just like anything. The clutch works in a certain way. The engine fires, the fuel goes in, the cylinders, all these things. Well, that's the basis of what you're obviously loving. So let's figure out where you fit in to that. Do you want to be on the manufacturer side? Do you want to, even down to being, car model? Who knows? Every part of anything a woman can be involved in is something that's positive in motorsports. So, but I will say my biggest advice for anyone is just to be classy. You've got to make sure that whatever you do, especially in the digital age that's recorded and always, can come back and bite you. You've got to keep it classy. You want to always have good sportsmanship if you are in the driver's seat. And I'm very competitive. So I'm mouthy or whatever, but at the end of the day, I have to represent some of the greatest companies in the industry that I've been fortunate enough to do that with. So I have to hold myself to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And I think that, perception is reality. If you go out with a great attitude all the time, win or lose, and you represent, say I'm going to throw out, you've got VP Race Fuels. You run that in your little whatever daily driver. It doesn't even matter what it is. pick a brand, any brand that you buy. Start sending them your content. Say, I run your product. I'm not asking you for anything. I just wanted to share this. Here's my social media, whatever. Invite them to collaborate, tag them in your post. Those are the ways you're going to get eyeballs on you. And they want to see that user-generated content. And you have to always remember, on the sponsorship side of things, this is kind of like how you can, you were asking more like how you could make a career out of it. But I think that a lot of it comes down to who you know. So you start making those sponsorship connections, and that is how you get those opportunities. That's how, to me, that's the easiest route to getting your foot in the door. Whether you become a salesperson for one of these companies, you can make 6 figures doing something like that. That's, motorsports is a huge business. So it's finding where you fit in. And I hope that is helpful.
It is.
But I think that, you have to put yourself out there, and you've got to be willing to reach out to these companies and not saying, hey, I'm looking for a sponsor. Hey, look at what I did this past weekend. I'm not a big time racer. I just wanted to share this with you. I just wanted to make the connection. And me, as someone who runs the social media channels, I've managed millions of followers. That resonates with me more than you sending me your sponsorship proposal and asking me for money or parts.
Yes.
I would rather sponsor the 14-year-old driver out there than Joe Blow, who kind of thinks that because he built a race car, he's owed parts or money. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I do know what you're saying. And the big companies, and probably all the companies, get a lot of people asking, not very many people giving. And so the giving needs to be first, the sharing. That builds trust. And, I have a list of my favorite places, like I'd love to go to Buc-ee's. Okay.
I love Buc-ee's. I have Buc-ee's blanket right in my office over here.
Oh my gosh, I love Buc-ee's. I love Jet's Pizza, Chick-fil-A, whatever it is. I'm a crafter. I love my Cricut. So those are the places that people need to start. Because you can be authentic and honest and about those products. And like you said,
because you like them.
You like them, you use them, you buy them every day. Yeah,
exactly.
So that's
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, that's a great suggestion for people who haven't thought about it.
And you don't have to be a winning racer. You don't have to be someone who is just dumping every bit of money you have into your program. You can be a regular person out there enjoying your fun weekend at a test and tune on a Friday night, or racing a class if that's what you want to do. But it's about being authentic and professional. Don't have controversial subjects on your social media and have videos of you doing things that would not, they're watching you. If they're going to possibly collaborate with you or something, they are watching, because I always watch. Yeah. And I have my little checklist where I'm like, ew, that's terrible. I'm not going to associate the companies that I work with this person. But everything that you do, when you do things like this, like if you were going to make a connection like this, it's a partnership. Yes. Always say, hey, you know what? I have a Camaro and I run your fuel. I just want to let you know, like, since I switched to your fuel from XYZ, I've seen, this and that, a little bit of R&D talk, a little bit of, how can you help them, give them just a little bit of information about how it's helped you. That turns it into a testimonial for the company. That puts you in their good graces. They can use that content for a testimonial, and before you know it, they're tagging you and they're reposting your content, and that's kind of how you kind of start from the bottom with those companies like that. So, and that's the thing. It could be a sponsorship deal, or it could be an open door for a career. Who knows?
You don't know. And when we think about, we're not talking about NHRA, IHRA necessarily. We're talking about Kalamazoo Speedway. And if you race there on Friday night, then the sponsors on your car need to be Harding's Friendly Market, the grocery store. They need to be the the Shell station that everybody drives past to go to the racetrack. It needs to be the Subway, the McDonald's, whoever it is. And I think a lot of people kind of are trying to look at the big picture, the bigger sponsors. And I get that, but you know, what if the McDonald's, which is right on the way to Kalamazoo Speedway, what if they said, here, you and your crew eat free every night after the races?
Exactly.
I'd put their sticker on the car, wouldn't you?
For sure. And then you take it. It's so simple. It shouldn't be overthought. Like, you take a selfie there, you're eating your dinner, put it on social media. Like, thank you so much for feeding us after this crazy race weekend we had. And it's just, that's really truly what it takes to plant those seeds, and hopefully they grow into something. Who knows I just see so much potential. And if you're a woman in motorsports, forget about it. You've already got a leg up. Now people will say like, oh, women don't belong, racing or whatever. No, that's nonsense. With that extra little kick in the pants to be noticed quicker comes the responsibility of keeping yourself as professional as possible.
Absolutely.
So that is really what I would say to young women. And there seems to be a lot of interest. I mean, I see a lot of early 20s women that are out there doing all kinds of things. I mean, road racing to, like I said, I'm really on the drag racing side of
rally. I interviewed a couple women that do these crazy rally races.
Oh, that sounds so fun.
It sounds fun to be in the passenger seat and not have to do anything, but I don't want to be the navigator, because what if I tell us wrong? It takes a lot of skill.
The side of a mountain. I'm sending us over. Forget about it. I'll be in the passenger seat of that. But that does sound so fun.
There are so many women in so many positions, and the possibilities are endless. They really are.
They are. They need to harness that and grab hold of it, and just figure out where you fit in is where I've always kind of, and I've had a lot of really great opportunities come, and some of them haven't worked out for me, and some of them weren't what I thought they would be. And, it's just part of life.
It is.
But to be in something that you love so much, like I was thinking about starting a new marketing company, a local one. And I'm like, why would I do that? Like, I don't want to market for, I'm sure I can make plenty of money doing that, but like, that is not what I want to do. I don't want to go to the local dentist office and start creating a marketing plan for their business. Like, that's, so I just find it to be so exciting and invigorating, and just, it is, it's a lot of fun. It really is. So,
this has been a lot of fun.
If you can learn their product lines, have that, like, to figure out the lingo and like the keywords, but always use the partnership. Is never sponsor, never, hey, give me free parts or any of that. Like, and go to PRI, go to SEMA.
Oh, absolutely.
PRI. Put your feet on the ground and go shake some hands. Yes, they will talk to hundreds of people per day, but you will be able to send them an email and say, hey, I talked to you at such and such. Oh, I remember you. You're the girl that does this. That's really how you do it. And then maybe find somebody like me that can help mentor you a little bit.
Well, the other thing about PRI, because I've been going I've been going since 2016. And I mentioned send out cards. And so what I like to do is either take a picture of their booth or get online and get their logo offline and put that on the card and send them the card, and then maybe my picture in the bottom by my name, because if they see you, they might remember you more.
Right.
And just say, hey, I stopped at your booth. Thanks for talking to me. Whatever you want to say, it's makes a difference. really
I'm
makes it.
kind of bold, and I think that if I were young in this industry trying to get in somehow, I would have a friend who would mic me up, cheap little microphone. You go to PRI, you don't have to, you can get in pretty easy at PRI. You don't really have to be in. Now they sell a pass. Back in the day, you had to be in the industry somehow before
Right.
you would be able to get in there. Mic me up. I'm going to go over to the, whatever popular brand. I'm going to go say, hey, are you a salesperson? My name is Elisa. Nice to meet you. Me and my friend are just doing some interviews. We just want to, kind of figure out what's going on in the industry. Can you tell me about your new products? And then you literally create a clip of content for that person.
Yeah.
Not only for you, but for your social media channels, and then for them. But use what you have. Like, it's a digital media world now. Like,
Yeah.
everyone has a phone. Everyone has the capability to do that. You don't have to have a big fancy camera.
No.
But those are the ways that you create that lasting impression. And
And how
I tagged you guys.
How impressive would that be if you got that little clip or video in your email after PRI? Do you think they're going to watch it? Do you think they're going to keep it? Oh, yeah.
Oh, they will.
Yeah.
I promise they will. Because if they captured the salesperson in the right position, in the right moment, and they had a great conversation, a great exchange about their products, 100% they're going to say, hey, Shelby from North Carolina sent us this video and it was amazing. We're so glad you came by our booth, Shelby. Like, we can't wait to see what you do in 2025. That's how those things start.
And they don't have, when you're in a booth, because I had a booth 2 years in a row for women's motorsports. When you're in the booth, you don't have time to be making videos yourself.
Nope.
But if somebody came and did that, it'd be huge.
It's a missing piece. It really is. And I've talked to my husband about it too. It's like, if I'm not going to be say with my manufacturing position, whatever, running a booth on the marketing side of things, I should be going around and doing that exact thing for all of these companies, because it's a missing thing. It's like you can knock out 10 or 15 of those in a day and you've created content for all kinds of people. Whether you charge or not, that's a different situation. That's a little bit different, but you're gonna, like I said, I've given away a lot of free work.
Yeah, I have too.
So that's kind of how that goes. You gotta kiss some frogs before you find the prince. So
and that's so true. And I've heard the same thing from I'm friends with some ladies that are in announcers in the media, and I've heard the same thing from them. They started as an intern, they worked for free, and that's how now Jamie Little, for one, she just keeps moving up in NASCAR. And so she started out just doing it for free. So yeah. Oh, we could talk all day, couldn't we?
I know. I really enjoyed this. This was fun. This broke up my day in the best possible way. So
we may have to do this again.
We should. Let's discuss, maybe, we can do one that's just on sponsorships, because I've got tons of information on sponsorships and a lot of tips and tricks to getting noticed. But it really is its own conversation, because
that's an hour just on that.
Yeah, it's a lot to it.
Well, thank you for being
so
here.
Much for
oh my gosh.
Me.
Now don't hang up. I'm going to end the recording, and then I'll touch base with you before we leave.
Okay, sounds good.
That's it for this episode of the Women's Motorsports Network podcast. We hope you've been inspired by the stories I shared today and feel more connected to the amazing community of women in motorsports. Remember, whether you're behind the wheel, in the pits, or cheering from the stands, your story matters. And together, we're driving change and celebrating every milestone. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who loves motorsports as much as you do. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more incredible stories. So until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and keep racing through life. This is the Women's Motorsports Network podcast, where every woman's story is worth celebrating.